welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary and today's video is going to be a book haul. So most of these books I've actually already talked about in some capacity in a vlog or something, because a lot of these books I got during vlogs. Others of these books I have not shown you yet. I'm very excited to just go through some books that I've accumulated in the last month or so. I have not done a book haul on this channel in a long time because while I was in law school I didn't have very much expendable income, so I didn't have any expendable income, to be honest with you. So I was not purchasing books. I was mostly using my library or books that I'd already owned. I'm still a big proponent of using your library and not going broke because of books. I think the books that I have here are gonna last me for a while. I definitely will be asking for books for my birthday, which is coming up in like a week and a half, and for Christmas, but other than that, I'm not planning on buying myself too many more books because I do have a lot of books that I own now, and then again, I do love to utilize my library, and you should too. I'm just gonna go through these books from different stores, and I think I'm gonna do it in the order in which I received them, or the order in which I purchased them. I do have two books that were gifted to me, so I will talk about those in a second here. Actually, should I just start with those? We'll start with those. So, my friend Amanda, her channel is Her Pacific Northwest Washington Life. She does not post on YouTube anymore, and I think she's privated her Instagram and stuff. I don't think she's like planning on coming back, but if she is, obviously I would love to see it, but as far as I know, she is not. But we met here on BookTube, and actually she co-hosted my Jane Austen read-along with me in 2021. So that's Amanda, if you watched any of those live shows. But she gifted me two books. One was a thank you gift for, she just had a baby, so I bought her one of the presents from her like Amazon wish list for her baby registry. She got me a book to say thank you, and then she also got me a book to congratulate me for passing the bar exam. So first up, she got me Arcanum Unbounded by Sanderson, which I have talked about this before. I love this cover. I think it's so pretty. I just love the green and the like forest or whatever. I just think this is a great cover. This is a collection of novellas and short stories that are companions to the Cosmere, which is Brandon Sanderson's like extended universe, if you will. I am trying to read the Cosmere in publication date order, and so a lot of the books have been from this, or a lot of the novellas and short stories, if you will, have been from this, and I've been trying to get it from my library, but it's always got a long wait list. So I've had several months where I've just read like 4 novellas because I was behind. She got me this so I no longer have to wait in line in my library, which was very kind of her. And then she also got me Over the Woodward Wall by a Deborah Baker, which is actually Shauna Maguire. This is a companion novel as well, or companion novella, it's very short, to Middle Game by Shauna Maguire, which if you've not read that, it follows twins, Roger and Dodger, and a lot of the novel is interspersed with stories or like sections from this book that wasn't out when the novel came out, but then Shauna Maguire wrote it to be a companion for it. And I believe the twins in this story, or the kids in this story, I don't think they're twins, I think they're just like neighbors, but I could be wrong about that. I have not read this yet. They like kind of mirror the story that Roger and Dodger, the twins in Middle Game, go on, or at least that's what it appears from reading Middle Game, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I actually need to reread it, but I've loaned it to a friend, so he is reading it right now, and I think he doesn't like it, so Jacob, if you're watching this, I'm really sorry that I led you astray. Those are the two books that I was gifted this month. Again, thank you so much, Amanda. It means the world to me. It was very special to get those packages because I was not expecting them. Well, I was expecting one because she told me she was sending it to me, and then I got the second one, and I was definitely not expecting that. But next, I have some books that I got from Revolution Records here in Kansas City, which is a record store, but they also have books in them. That's a pretty common thing that I didn't realize was that common because the record stores back where I lived previously in Arkansas, I only got into record stores because my fiance is really into collecting records and vinyl and like cassettes and all of that stuff. He really likes music. He has like a music YouTube channel and a music Instagram where he like catalogs music, specifically like punk bands from Arkansas. So if you're interested in that, I'll have his channels linked down below. But we've been going to record stores, and I found out that some record stores here, a lot of record stores here actually carry books as well as records. So it's really fun for us to go together, and he can look through the records and I can scour the bookshelves for things that I'm interested in reading. So first up, I got The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, which I have on good authority is the first ever time travel story, and it's from 1895, which I also didn't realize. I don't know when I thought H.G. Wells was alive, but apparently it follows a Victorian scientist who travels back to, or who travels forward like 800,000 years, and to the year AD 802,701, which doesn't even sound like a year because it's so far in the future. But He encounters a highly evolved society of people called Eloi, for whom suffering has apparently been replaced by refinement and harmony, but everything is not as it appears. I love time travel in books, and I'm very excited to see the like original spin on it, if you will. There's that one. Next up, from that same record store, I picked up Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl, which is a nonfiction book, I believe. Oh my gosh. I did not realize this. So this, apparently, Viktor E. Frankl was a psychiatrist in Nazi prison camps, including Auschwitz, while his parents, brother, and pregnant wife perished in the prison. I did not realize that. I've seen this be listed on like most disturbing books lists, which is why I was interested in it, because I have a project that I wanted to do this year that I have a feeling I'm going to push till next year, and I'm going to start it next year regardless of how things go, because I'm really excited about it, but I didn't realize this was what this was about. So it's based on his own experience and the stories of his many patients. Frankl argues that we cannot avoid suffering, but we can choose how to cope with it, find meaning in it, and move forward with renewed purpose. So I'm very interested in reading this, actually. Now I'm even more interested than I was before. I just thought this was like a philosophy book on people searching for meaning, but apparently it's much deeper than that. So you'll have to let me know if you've read that book and what you thought about it. I also, on that same trip, picked up Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which I've heard really good things about. I mostly picked this up because I really like this cover of it, but this is like a classic love story type thing. I think this is like really sad, and I want to say this was written in the 80s or even before, and then it's translated. So I know there's a movie about this, and I am really excited to finally read this book. I think my sisters had to read it either for school or they read it while they were in high school, because I know we had this when I was a kid, but I was not allowed to read it. So now I can do whatever I want because I'm an adult and I'm gonna read it. So next up I have Music for Wartime by Rebecca Makkai, which I believe is a short story collection, and this follows like multiple different short stories. I think one is set around the fall of the Berlin Wall. One is about a reality TV show host who tries to make two contestants fall in love with each other even as their own relationship falls apart. I really like short stories. I especially like short stories when they're in collections that are written by one author. I don't always love anthologies because I find that not all writing styles will work for me, but I'm really excited to get to this. And I have had this on my list for a long time, and I know that I have like a lot of Rebecca Makkai books on my list because apparently she's like a very good author, or that's what I've heard. I think she mostly writes like literary fiction, which is something that I was more interested in before I like really started reading again, but I'm very excited to read this one. Yeah, I hope I really like it. Now I'm gonna show you some books that I got from Half Price Books. I got these in a vlog as well. I will link all the vlogs that I'm talking about, but first up I have Still Lives by Maria Hummel, which is on my TBR for this month. I've not read it yet, but it is on my TBR, and I'm hoping to get to it. And this is a like mystery thriller, literary thriller, following a like artist who goes missing. The reason that I was interested in this book originally is because it delves into like society's infatuation with tragedies that befall women. And I thought it sounded a little bit like a collection of essays that I read back in 2019, I think, which was called Dead Girls. I can't remember the author of that, but it's an essay collection, again, that kind of takes a look into different like pop culture references that have revolved around the deaths of women and like the pain and suffering of women, and sort of examines that and how like we as a society are like morbidly intrigued by it. I'm very excited to read this and see what it has to say on that topic. Another book that I picked up from Half Price Books is Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala. I'm butchering that name. I believe this is a Filipina author, but this is the first book in a cozy mystery series, and I want to say she runs a restaurant, like a family restaurant, and she accidentally kills a food critic at her restaurant, and so the book sort of goes from there. I want to get more into cozy mysteries, and also I wanted to apologize right now because I think I talked about the third book in the series in my most recent video, which was a like just me looking at different books that were coming out in the month of October of this year and saying which ones I was interested in reading, and I said that I had not heard of this series before. I don't remember what the series is called, but I have the first book, so I've obviously heard of the series before. I just didn't realize that it was a third book in this series, so if I like this one, I will probably move on in this series, but also because it's a cozy mystery, I'm not like, at this point in time, gonna prioritize that over a lot of other things, if that makes sense. Although I do want to get into cozies because people love them. Next up, I got Pretty Little Wife by Darby Kane, which is a domestic thriller. I've heard some people talk about this. I don't know if they've said good things or bad things, but it sounds interesting to me. So it's set in this college town, and we're following Lila, who is married, I think, to a professor in this town, and then a student goes missing, and then her husband goes missing, and the police are trying to like find similarities between their disappearances to see if they're related. But apparently the student was like the third one to go missing, and Lila knows more than she's letting on. I'm very excited to see what will happen in this book, because I personally love a like revenge story, and so I'm excited to see what this book is going to be like. Next up I have, gosh, this one has so many stickers on it. At least this Oprah Book Club thing is an actual sticker that I can try to peel off with some Goo Gone. But this is The Invention of Wings by Sue Monk Kidd, and this follows, let me see if I can remember this, because I had to look it up when I originally hauled this book in that blog. So this, I think, has two perspectives, and one is a white woman whose family owns slaves, and then the other is one of the children of the slaves that her family owns, and they are friends, but it follows them each as they are growing up, and I think it's after slavery has been abolished or around the time that, oh no, 1803. So not around the time. But I want to say that the white woman becomes really involved in the abolitionist movement, and then obviously the black woman has her own issues because she is a slave. So I'm interested to see where this goes. I don't always love stories, how do I say this delicately? I don't always love books that are written by white authors that attempt to tell a story about an experience that is not their own. And obviously historical fiction, no one is going to be able to tell an experience that is their own because we are not alive in 1803, but like a story that means a lot to a group of people that is very deeply steeped in the history of that thing and then tries to tell it on their own. So I'm curious about this one. I did not look into what it was about prior to purchasing it. I'm sure I did before I put it on my TBR, but I didn't remember that that's what it was about when I bought it. So I'm gonna see how I feel about this one. But after finding out what it was about after buying it, I don't know how interested I am in reading it anymore. Although I've heard really good things about Sue Monk Kidd, so maybe I will like it. We'll just have to see. And I also am gonna look at like Own Voices reviews for the rep in it, because I won't know if it's good rep. Does that make sense? I hope so. This one I'm really excited about. Oh, so this is the plot by Jean Hanff Korelitz. I'm gonna butcher that name. But this book is about a college professor who I believe has a student who has, so the college professor wanted to be an author, but he hasn't published anything that's of note or maybe anything at all. He's having a hard time writing, and he has a student who tells him this plot that the student is going to write that's like really brilliant, and the teacher's like, wow, that's a really good idea. And then I think something happens to the student where they go missing or they die or something, and he ends up, the professor ends up publishing the book, and then someone like sends him an email that's like, I know that you didn't come up with this plot or whatever, and the story goes from there. So I'm really excited to read this one. It sounds kind of like dark academia-ish, but not entirely, and I'm really curious to see what happens with it. Next, I have The Babysitters Cabin by Kate Williams. This is the first in a series. I believe there are 2 books out, 1 book that is like coming out in the series. I don't know if it's only going to be a trilogy or more than that. So this is about a girl who is like, I think a high school junior, and she's a babysitter, and then a new girl moves to her town, and the new girl wants to start being a babysitter as well. And the new girl has like she's described as Instagram model hot and dresses like she found her clothes in a dumpster and has a rebellious streak as gnarly as the cafeteria cooking. And her name is Cassandra. The main character's name is Esme. And Cassandra wants to join Esme's babysitting club. And then turns out that the club is witches or has something to do with witchcraft, and Cassandra knows about it, but the other girls don't, I think. First of all, I love a coming of age story. Second of all, I love female friendship. And third of all, I liked the Babysitters Club a lot as a kid. So I'm hoping that this, scratches an itch for me. Also, I think witchy books are really fun. I'm thinking it'll be similar vibes to maybe The Craft. So I'm hopeful for that one. So next up, I also got Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. Cosby? Yes. I said Crosby last time I was doing this, like Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. And this is about a guy who used to be involved in organized crime, I think. I think he was a getaway driver, and then he's sort of turned his life around. Now he's just a mechanic, and he has like a wife and kids, and then somebody from his past, I believe, comes to him with this new heist idea and wants him to drive for them again. And I think it's about him either deciding to do it or deciding not to do it, and like the turmoil he goes through. And it says, haunted by the ghost of who he used to be and the father who disappeared when he needed him most, Bug must find a way to navigate this blacktop wasteland or die trying. I'm really excited about this book. I can't remember what else S.A. Cosby has written, but I know this was one of like several books of his that I was interested in reading. So I'm hoping that I will enjoy this one as well. And then last but certainly not least, I got 2 Toni Morrison books on that trip to Half Price Books. I got The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, which is her first novel. I did not know that. I think this book is about colorism, and specifically it's about a young black girl who prays for her eyes to turn blue. And then Toni Morrison has a tendency to write things with a little bit of a magical realism twist, if you will, like Beloved. I'm interested to see where this goes. I've heard really, really good things about this. I've also seen this on like book lists describing disturbing books. So I'm interested to read this one. And then I also got Home by Toni Morrison, which I ended up reading during reading sprints. So I will link the sprints that I read them during. And also, I can tell you what it's about. So this one is about a guy who is returning from the Korean War, and he gets a call from his sister or from someone from his hometown that he hasn't been back to since he was like 17 when he signed up to go to war. And I think he's in his early 20s now, and his sister is sick. Something has happened to her, so he needs to go home. So it's about him traveling and trying to get home. We also get perspectives of his sister. We get perspectives of his lover. We get different perspectives from different characters in this book. And I really liked this book. I gave this book 4 stars, but it wasn't anything like fantastic to me, although I do think the ending was quite the ending. It also deals heavily with like trauma and PTSD. Trauma both from people who go to war, like the main character, I think his name's Frank. Yes, Frank Money. And also we talk a lot about the trauma that his sister goes through, just trying to make a way for herself. And so this book is really interesting. This book is really good. I highly recommend it. And yes, I have already read that one, which is, I mean, it's always exciting to me when I do a book haul and I've actually read some of the books that are in the haul. I think that makes 1.5 because I've read some of Arcanum Unbounded. But finally, the last 2 books that I have to haul for you, I got from Willa's Books and Vinyl, which is another record store / bookstore. This one I think is primarily books. The owner, Willa, also primarily focuses on Black literature and like Black music, and she has a large like nonfiction section about that, which I thought was really, really interesting. I definitely think it's a store that I'm going to be stepping into again, but I did pick up 2 books while I was there. The first is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which I've heard really good things about. But it says, in a profound work that pivots from the biggest questions about American history and ideals to the most intimate concerns of a father for his son, Ta-Nehisi Coates offers a powerful new framework for understanding our nation's history and current crisis. Americans have built an empire on the idea of race, a falsehood that damages us all, but falls most heavily on the bodies of Black women and men. Bodies exploited through slavery, segregation, and today threatened, locked up, and murdered out of all proportion. What is it like to inhabit a Black body and find a way to live within it? And how can we all honestly reckon with this fraught history and free ourselves from its burden? This is another relatively short read that I am really excited to get to, and I might try to read during reading sprints. I think this is under 200 pages, 150 pages, so this should be perfect to read during a night of reading sprints, and I hope to get to this very soon. Next, I have LA Weather by Maria Amparo Escondon, and this is actually an ARC. Not for sale. I did buy it. She sold it to me, but I'm really excited. This is the first ARC I've ever owned. I didn't realize it was an ARC until after I'd already purchased it, but to be honest, I don't know that she realized it was an ARC either. She just looked at it and was like, yeah, I think she gave it to me for like $10 or $8. So this, I want to say, was nominated for or shortlisted for something. It's not going to say on this since this is an advanced reader's copy, which means that it came out and was printed before it was nominated for something. But it says, LA is parched and dry as a bone, and Oscar, the weather-obsessed patriarch of the Alvarado family, desperately wants is a little rain. He's harboring a costly secret that distracts him from everything else. His wife, Keila, desperate for a life with a little more intimacy and a little less Weather Channel, feels she has no choice but to end their marriage. Their 3 daughters, Claudia, a television chef with a hard-hearted attitude, Olivia, a successful architect who suffers from gentrification guilt, and Patricia, a social media wizard who has an uncanny knack for connecting with audiences but not with her lovers, are blindsided and left questioning everything they know. Each will have to take a critical look at their own relationships and make some tough decisions along the way. With quick wit and humor, Escondon follows the Alvarado family as they wrestle with impending evacuations, secrets, deception, betrayal, and their toughest decision yet, whether to stick together or burn it all down. And I believe this takes place during the wildfires that LA experienced a few years ago. I think they still technically are like at a risk for that, but I'm very excited to read this one. I'm really excited to own an ARC finally. I've never owned an ARC before, and I'm excited to read that one as well. So that's gonna be it for this book haul. Let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these books and how you felt about them. Also let me know if you have been to the Kansas City area or in the Kansas City area, what bookstores should I check out? Because we moved here not that long ago, and I would like to support some local bookstores. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it to this point in the video, leave a book stack comment in the emojis. Leave a book stack emoji in the comments down below, and I will see you in another video very, very soon. Bye!